Why is Ferrari so successful? Well, they are selling stories, and the story of this car is taking on your sunglasses in front of a nice hotel or in front of your villa and having a very elegant car in front of that and just start driving and enjoying life. This is the story of the Ferrari Amalfi, and while all manufacturers are struggling due to various reasons at this moment, and even Ferrari had a lot of hassle going on because of the all-electric new vehicle, the Luce, later more about that as well. They are also producing hybrid supercars, and they are also producing pure combustion engine vehicles still. This one here, the Ferrari Amalfi, is without any electrification. Is it, so to speak, the anti-Luce? And what is the exact story of the Ferrari Amalfi in exterior, interior, and of course the driving, the pure enjoyment of driving? This is also something we're going to transport to you here today with Thomas and Autogefuehl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the Ferrari Amalfi in the color of Rosso Imola. There are different red vehicle color tones, and I of course found it fitting to pick the Ferrari in red here today. The key fob, by the way, is always resembling like the crest or the one here in the front. And it's actually the very same size. You can see it right here. Yeah, it's always a lovely feature, and it also fits directly into the interior. Soon we'll take a look under the hood. You can see it's a very, very long hood to house this V8 down here, but it's not exactly like just front engine concept. They call it front midship concept because they put the engine as far back towards the cabin and as low as possible, whereas they have the transaxle building architecture. That means that the transmission is back there, and so because the engine is low and towards here and the transmission back there, they can also have a better, equal weight balance between front and rear, although you have a very heavy engine there in the front. Yeah, a very interesting take on that one as well. Then we have a length of 4 meters 66, so 183 inches. So it's actually not too long. And I found especially beautiful with this vehicle that it has very elegant, fluent lines. And you know that Ferrari is building different kind of vehicles. They also build like these true supercars and hypercars. And this one here is a GT. It's a successor of the Ferrari Roma. And you can see that it's not built to have the use of everyone look out, I own a Ferrari. This one is a Ferrari you actually buy to drive it every day because it's a GT, a Grand Tourer, and it should bring enough comfort. Will it bring enough comfort? We're soon going to find out. Then the wheels, 22-inch, always forged wheels, and you can of course get different stylings. This one is actually very fitting and elegant still. Huge Ferrari crest also at the side, and you can see this typical floating GT line, very strong hip area. And when you drive around in very, very expensive vehicles like this, but also other ones, I always tend to observe the reactions. And with this one it's very interesting because on the one hand, some might say, oh, there's a super expensive car coming and this guy might be super arrogant and so on. But with this vehicle, it's actually different because it's not like this super hypercar, whatever. It's not like this 10 meters wide SUV and so on. It is a very elegant line, and the reactions from people were actually very positive. So what was quite remarkable was also that when there was like a narrow part of the street and so on, and people were coming facing towards you, and you need to decide like who makes way. People were always making way, like very polite and say like, hey, go, I go to the side and you take your time and pass. That was also one of the first reactions here to the Ferrari Amalfi. This vehicle is, by the way, equipped with adaptive aerodynamics, so this one here also goes up on demand and then supplies more downforce. And going up on the on the same direction, but other part of the vehicle is you can use a front lift as an option to go up 40 millimeters when there's like a steep basement garage ramp or something like that. to save your precious car from scratches from underneath. And now it's also time to open that center piece of that vehicle. By the way, here this one is available as a coupe and also as the Amalfi Spider, the convertible. And here under the hood we do have, there we go, a 3.9, whoa, that looks amazing. A 3.9 liter V8 twin turbo, 640 horsepower, dual clutch transmission, 3.3 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 62 miles an hour, and this even more interesting what's coming up now, 0 to 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour, is 9 seconds. And this is really then the power of this combustion engine. And you can see there's no electrification, no hybrid concept whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, this is...
Leave it open like that, yeah.
You can actually leave it open like, yeah, that just, Leah just said you can just leave it open like that and look at that for hours. Yeah, this is really one of the reasons why people would still go for this car, just to take a look at that and let it run. And the driving, of course, will be even more interesting. You can see also, you know, like how long the hood is, but that's not like really hear the engine, but now you can really see that it's really very, very close to the cabin there. So yeah, very interesting to look at that. And then we can also enjoy an extensive driving part later on with you as well. Another very interesting story is, by the way, I mean, if you look at that engine, and here it's a V8, you might think, how expensive is that? And that might be like a top. No, that is like an entry-level Ferrari. So this is basically the entry to the world of Ferrari when you buy a new one. You know, there's also this program of buying certified used vehicles, for example. But this one here is around 250,000 euros if you don't spec any, Leah says that. Yeah, exactly. So, of course, you can also go for 300, 350 when you have like some special wishes and so on. But like the entry price when you go for some pre-configurations and so on. And this is in the world of Ferrari, rather a lower price. So yeah, always have to bear in mind that this is like the entry-level Ferrari. But on the other hand, as I said, the advantage is definitely that you have the lower price in comparison, and that this one is maybe one of the most likable Ferraris. It splits least opinions, you know, especially in the appearance in public. And that was also like one of the very interesting observations here today. Now to come the interior. I've already shown you the key fob. And then here, access to the doors is flush, but you basically fold this one in. And then the door comes a little bit towards you, grab in there. You see here, frameless, of course, and well, it's a decent door closing sound. We have heard better ones with frameless doors, but also way worse ones. Then you can also see how the windows being like curved along the coupe silhouette. Then everything covered here. Here, for example, a lot of Alcantara use for the Amalfi. I like that. Also inside here, everything is covered with Alcantara. Really appreciate it, although it's a very small door pocket. And then we have also very interesting this entry sill with like real letters you can actually feel. So that's highly appreciated. And also these aluminum panels that always look very sporty, which has a new technology, by the way. It's brake by wire, so it's electronic, how you press it, and then there's hydraulic behind it. Let's see how that one performs. Then steering wheel, huge shifting panels behind it, and on the steering wheel, return of real buttons. Here on the left side, the start-stop engine button also has returned, and here also real buttons right there. And this was also feedback from Ferrari customers. And the interesting thing is, there's even now a retrofit kit available for these real buttons. We have also filmed that for you, so you can go to your Ferrari dealer if you do not have this one yet, if you have the old version with the capacitive buttons and so on, so because people don't want to have that anymore. And this one here for the drive mode selection here, you know, Eco, Comfort, Sport and so on, which is kind of like Formula One inspired. It's not only Formula One inspired. Ferrari says that this one even originates back to Michael Schumacher. And the story behind is that Michael Schumacher, when he was driving the F1 Ferrari car, he said he wanted to have the sportiest setup possible, but especially when it's, for example, at, bumpy parts of the racetrack, he could still have everything in a sporty setting, but the suspension a little bit softer again. And that was like the idea, and how they also brought that then into passenger vehicles. So that's that's a very nice story. And before we take a closer look at the rest of the cockpit here, the 2+2 seater concept. You can push these seats forward. They go forward and electrical, but it's really just either for child seats, Isofix here, or putting some backpacks then here. You can see there's no space whatsoever when adults are sitting in this vehicle. So it's really like 2+2 seater concept, as they call it. And we start in the cockpit here with putting the key fob right there. So this is like this. There we go. To put it out again, by the way, you have to push it down there like this. Like you see, it's a little bit deeper there. So that is then the way it works. This is the way. Then here you can put in automatic manual shifting or reverse gear, hazard lights. This is somewhat adaptive cup holder in the front, inductive charging pad. Doesn't seem to be cooled though. The window levers are right here in the middle, so the doors then keep clean. You have this infotainment system here, for example, for extensive climate unit, but you also have a shortcut right here. I would still prefer a return of physical dials there too. Then here you can have the lift, the front lift, and other than that, you don't have so many things here in the infotainment system that you rather do Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And then here underneath, they can also show you have some space, and then we can also plug in the phone. CarPlay is available with the cable, but also wireless. So you can choose that. I rather prefer the cable connection because it's usually a little bit more stable. And there we go with the CarPlay connection. It is placed relatively low, and it also seems a little bit slow. Let's take it that way. So they want to keep the dash clean and that you have good view to the exterior, but then the screen is very, very low when you want to take a look at the GPS and so on. So then like your view goes quite down there. Gotta say that.
Also the head restraint. Yeah.
And the head restraint is probably not for tall German Thomases with 1A962. There is some headroom left, but you see here the head restraint should be a little bit higher for safety reasons. Gotta say that. And then here the turning indicators are on the steering wheel, as you know, maybe from recent Ferrari models. What is actually quite good is that you always can keep your hands on steering, even in the roundabout, and you don't have to like find it then here. So this solution I think is okay, and you can even here use it from behind. And that is maybe like you can push it from behind on top, or you can also pull it from behind. And this is maybe even more because with the thumb you have to always go this, and when you just do like this from behind, it's probably even easier to do. Very interesting, isn't it? Here the digital instruments, they really follow this exterior form, and then you have this huge RPM meter in the middle, and then boom, boom, boom. Yeah, this is like the centerpiece of that. And the speed is, okay, we also have a speedometer, so just like very small, not so important, but then RPM. This is very important. So
Best greetings to Audi.
Best greetings to Audi, yeah, indeed. But you can also change the view. Here there's like a view reel button. Then you have another large RPM meter in the middle. You see what the emphasis of this vehicle is. So these are like the two basic modes, so to speak. And I also appreciate that you can press one of the buttons here for the assistance systems, and then you can click off or custom here, select with your right thumb, and then also all the beepings and assistance you don't want to have are actually turned off.
And I have a passenger.
Oh yeah, and Leah has a very small passenger screen where she can, for example, also can activate seat heating, or can also watch another large RPM meter. Yes, and the real letters here for the Amalfi once again next to glove box where you can also fit at least some things in. And Leah also has her own aluminum non-pedals, like just this plate that she can also push her feet against it when Thomas is driving too sporty, actually. And about the seating comfort, by the way, so let's say it could be worse. It's still a sporty seating position. It's a sport seat. It holds you. It kind of cages you in. I would feel that the seating depth could be more optimal because this is a GT. It's about comfort after all. So I think they could have had a little bit more effort to make the seats a little bit more comfortable, especially from the seating depth. And the seat itself, you can see this one here has standard Alcantara on the inside. I appreciate it because it's also more wearable. It's in a way stickier in corners and so on. And they also extensify the use of Alcantara. There's also less animal material use. They still use a lot of animal leather in here, but you can also ask them for customization that you want to have a vehicle without animal parts, because yeah, I think that animals are not products, but they are friends and family. That's why I would also then a Ferrari without animal materials, but they're going in this direction with the more and more Alcantara use. You can even get Alcantara on the steering wheel, by the way. One of the reasons, by the way, the seating depth is missing is here. You can see the seat is rather like a bowl in the lower part, and there should be more seating depth than here for the sit bone area. This was even in the Ferrari California, like 13 years ago. I tested on the seat was like a bowl and was lacking a seating depth. And some quality things, you know, for example here, that's not what you expect from 250,000 euros. So they are, some Chinese 40,000 euro cars have often better build quality, but that's also a problem with the German premium manufacturers, for example. But that's really a thing by the established manufacturers. They really need to step up again the interior build quality. If you wonder, by the way, why we have the engine running, this 12-volt starter battery here has the tendency to empty itself when you have the car, you know, like ignition on, you show the lights, you have the infotainment running and so on. So there's also, when you are a Ferrari customer, be aware that you should not run all the electrical system for a longer time without having the engine running, because the battery will deplete itself and then you have to give it like a boost, you know, from an external starter and so on. Should you be in doubt if this is rear-wheel drive or not? Yes, it's rear-wheel drive. And then here the trunk is at 270 liters and it does fit two cabin trolleys next to each other. The backpacks have to go then to the rear. That's about it. So it's not too much. And then here the length at 60 centimeters, 24 inches, 80 centimeters, 32 inches. There, and in the front a meter or 40 inches, and the sweet height of 35 centimeters or 14 inches. Sport mode. Woo! Yeah, that was like rolling to 90 kilometers an hour in the sport mode, and you could hear something from that V8. And the big RPM meter, of course, pretty quick here. In the sport mode, a little bit more responsive. The suspension is also then a little bit stiffer. We'll also go through different modes. The steering is, to me, still a little bit light, also considering that it's a sport mode, so maybe even a little bit more feedback would be nice. But you have a good grip here with the thumb in, and it's also progressive. You especially feel that. So we're going to some corner area there, and especially when the corner like increases, then you feel that you have a really crisp steering here, you know. And you also feel, for example, here in the comfort mode, then everything's a little bit more settled, a little bit calmer, everything gets a little bit more comfortable, and you can also just enjoy. So this car indeed can do both, be very aggressive, be very powerful with all the performance, but it can also be this leisure car where you can just cruise and you know you have the power, but you don't have to use it. So both is possible. And here also when you go left, right, you're really planted to the ground. So weight is just under 1.5 tons. And that is of course then an advantage when you have here. Yeah, Leah also gives thumbs up. Leah likes that, yeah, especially when you're a passenger, that's really helpful. Together with the seats that hold you tight, that's comfortable also from a passenger perspective. So that's very, very important. And see here, when the road is a little bit tighter, I'm driving a little bit calmer, it's fine, staying in the comfort mode. It's also not so loud in the cabin, and you can really drive it more or less also like a normal car. In contrast to when you have like a supercar, you basically always have the supercar pressure, like you going over a small bump. Does it hit the ground? And oh, I really want to return to the racetrack. And this one here can also be said, hey, you know, I'm going for groceries with this one, and I don't feel like I'm in a supercar that is kind of like an obstacle or something, you know. So this makes it also suitable for a more frequent use, so to speak, and you can just enjoy the countryside and so on. Yet again, just turning the Michael Schumacher switch here, then to the sport mode, everything gets a little bit more aggressive. You have a lower gear, more RPM to work with, for example. Here you can turn in a very crisp way, and then rear-wheel drive nicely out of the corner. That's of course really beautiful, and also when it gets a little bit tighter here, easy to do that. It's just nice, you know, especially when you have the pure rear-wheel drive and low weight concept, and it really pushes you nicely out of the corner. But I like the smooth power delivery. It is powerful, but it's not extreme, because when you enjoy driving, yes, for the race track it might be. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that is. Yeah, there's a little bit tight road here, and this, by the way, also a thing here. Before you are turning backward, others are turning backward. In this case here, the Golf R, which is also nice and sporty car, but here is not sure how this is going to fit here. Maybe back there. Yeah, that's sometimes a thing about very tight roads, but
he's from Germany.
He's from Germany, actually. Yeah. So thank you so much with that Golf R. And yeah, now it's also good that we don't have a supercar that is even wider. Does it fit on the right side?
Yeah, right is.
Does it fit?
Yeah.
Danke. There we go. Yeah. Situations like these also happen, especially when you have tight roads. Yeah, at some point, probably that fitted two VW Beetle or I don't know, Fiat Cinquecento next to each other. But yeah, for nowadays cars and the width, even here in this Golf R, of course, that gets really, really tight. And let's drive where it's a little bit more open, and we can also use here the shifting pedals. Yeah, it can also be a little bit bumpy, especially in the sport mode. Here, these roads are sometimes also a little bit older, let's take it that way. But here, like shifting backward is, yeah, really nice pleasure, and to have directly more RPM available, and also like the feedback you have from these pedals, and you can always reach them because they're very, very wide. That's of course pretty cool. Here also out of the corner, then we could feel that the car is coming around there a little bit, so you can really nicely play with that one. And if you really want to stress the manual shifting, that it basically never shifts automatically, you can also then go to this manual mode then there, and yeah, this also this raw power. And in the sport mode, it also lets the car move a little bit more loose, that you can, without getting out of control, just a little bit slide the rear around. And that's of course, let's say, this controlled fun. That's cool, that's cool, yeah. And then at the same time that it's also smooth, and especially when the road is a little bit more even here, that really gives you this very nice, smooth, controlled driving feeling here of the Amalfi. And now it really hard on the brakes. Yeah, the thing is here with this brake-by-wire, the system is that you have the electric input, and then behind that is the hydraulic. But what I do feel is that like the movement, the way of the pedal is not really that long. So it's relatively short, like the way you can play with. So I would actually like that we have a little bit more room to play with the pedal. And we also want to drive some motorway here. Let's accelerate on. Meanwhile, the front lift and the emergency braking assist has said goodbye, we're out of here. Electronic failure, go visit dealer, just to mention that. And now here, going on the motorway, let's see, from 60 kilometers an hour, let's go. Plop, that's already 100. Goes quickly, and hitting the turning indicators early enough. Now here 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour. Let's go to the comfort mode. It's actually notable rolling noise, however you do have quite rough tarmac here. The coolest thing is, of course, always being in these corners on the motorway as well, because this is a car that just enjoys cornering at any speed, basically. Let's see, there's a car coming there. Then we can do also another lane change here, and I can also pull these turning indicators. Yeah, and the lane change is quickly, and you hardly notice it, you know, because the car is so nicely planted on the ground that you really hardly notice any lane changes. The long-term comfort, by the way, with these seats, thing is happening that I expected before. So some lower back pain is already there because just not enough seating depth. So they really should work on the comfort of the seats. That is also suitable long-term then. Suspension and so on is definitely suitable long-term, and how the car is behaving you can also comfortably control and so on, that's fine, but just really a seating issue overall. And it will be worse if you have the animal skin material, because it's even a little bit stiffer, a little bit harder. Here also on the motorway, very nice to do these lane changes. It feels as you would be standing still with here 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, because the car is capable of so much more. 320 is the VMAX, and no wind noise and so on from the side mirrors. It really, is well put into the wind. Here's also now less rolling noise because the tarmac is a little bit different than it was initially. So it's also a good motorway cruiser when you just maybe enjoy a liaison between the nice rides and so on, and you just want to keep changing the lanes all the time, actually, because that's so much fun then. I hope you enjoyed this pure driving experience. Few words to the Luce, as you also asked me about that, the all-new electric Ferrari. So the basic concept of having an electric Ferrari is absolutely needed, because there's also the demand for it, no doubt. And I personally also find electric vehicles very good. Our next personal vehicle will probably also be then an all-electric one, and all the different powertrains have their pros and cons, and this one here was also a pure to ride, and of course the weight is very low. This one is also one of the big advantages, that you stay under 1.5 tons here with the Ferrari Amalfi. The Ferrari Luce is just under 2.3 tons, it's a weight comparison, and even like this more like very futuristic interior, I found actually quite cool, gotta say that. And that it's electric, also totally fine with that. I was not so happy with the exterior design, like many others. Too much Nissan Leaf alike, really gotta say that. Let's see what stylings they can come up with, and also wait for the driving of the Ferrari Luce, because when you're interested, we can also do that for you, and then we can do a final judgment of the Ferrari Luce after we know how it really drives. But yeah, to me personally, I would have liked to see like an all-electric Ferrari F40, like this very edgy retro styling. That's what I would have wished, for the first all-electric Ferrari. But tell me, what do you think about it? And also, what do you think about the Ferrari Amalfi? And a few years ago, we have also reviewed the Ferrari Puro Sangue. That is the SUV crossover style direction. Also very interesting vehicle, and 12 cylinders there instead of 8. So you can check out that video here right now.